Yes, you've heard about the Fiji water meme. You've heard about Fiji water, the apparent scandal with the Huffington Post. Well, this weekend starting podcast on Keeping It Real with Alexander Garrett, we're going to get into that because FijiWaterGirl spoke this week, and Huffington Post, they decided to be a Scrooge even after December was over. We'll talk about that. Now, the first thing I want to talk about, though, here on Keeping It Real with Alexander Garrett, by the way, thanks for tuning in. You can follow me on Twitter at AlexGNNYC. Follow me on Twitter at AlexGNNYC and on Instagram at AlexGNNYC as well. But I want to start with the banner, and I mean absolute banner week that CNN had, starting with one Jim Acosta.
And here are some of the steel slats that the president's been talking about right here. As you can see, yes, you can see through these slats to the other side of the U.S.-Mexico border. But as we're walking along here, we're not seeing any kind of imminent danger. There are no migrants trying to rush toward this fence here in the McAllen, Texas area. As a matter of fact, there are some other businesses behind me along this highway. There's a gas station, Burger King, and so on. But no sign of the national emergency that the president has been talking about. As a matter of fact, it's pretty tranquil down here.
Because there is a wall. There's a fence. There's a protective border at the border. Jim Acosta, and I actually replied to Donald Trump when he made the incredible trolling Dear Diary. I said to him, hey, maybe Jim's finally listening to you. Maybe he's finally getting it. And what appeared to be this big, there's no need for a national emergency declared, well, he described why. Because where there is a wall, there's protection. And when there's not a wall, there's not protection, obviously. But then I want to bring you to this story. KUSI in San Diego was actually asked by CNN about having a reporter on for the wall. And here's what KUSI San Diego says about the response CNN gave them after they asked for a reporter to talk about the wall in hopes of saying how unnecessary the wall is. Well, CNN was quite surprised. Take a listen.
Sign of the times in this debate on the shutdown, CNN asked if KUSI would provide a reporter to offer our local view of the debate, especially to learn if the wall works in San Diego.
KUSI offered our own Dan Plant, who's reported many times that the wall is not an issue here. In fact, most officials believe it is effective. The issue we face is the migrants and the debate over their treatment.
Now, knowing this, CNN declined to have us on their programs, which often present the wall as not required in other places, like the stretch of the Texas border the president visited earlier today. They didn't like what they heard from us.
Just some background for you.
And that's quite a background, right? The CNN doesn't want the reporter because he's going to say, the wall's working fine here. And remember, folks, this is coming from...
This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
The most trusted name in news, again, does not want to hear the other side of the story. So you got Jim Acosta in McAllen, Texas, where Trump was, saying how safe the area was, how it's not a national emergency. Well, duh, because there's a fence there. And then you've got this KUSI story with CNN. The quote-unquote most trusted name in news. It becomes laughable at the end of the day. It becomes laughable because they do claim certain things that they're not. And it's sad. And then you have this background of Trump in Texas, and I thought he did a great job, and I did not do a podcast yesterday, but kudos, big kudos to Twitter, to Jack, who's left-leaning, but he let the White House roll live on your Twitter Moments page because he thought it was important to have the president's full remarks in McAllen, Texas, with Border Patrol. Meanwhile, CNN cut out. Meanwhile, Fox News did cut out after a little while. And you know what's weird about that? You'd think that they'd want to, in this whole debate, hear the whole side, hear why border security and why a fence of some sort, a stronger fence, is needed.
The government shut down because Democrats will not fund border security, plain and simple. And again, more than just the walls. Their open borders agenda threatened all American families, including millions of legal immigrants throughout our nation. In the last 2 years alone, our courageous ICE officers, many of whom are with us, arrested criminal aliens charged with or convicted of 100,000 assaults. This is in the last year. 30,000 sex crimes and 4,000 violent killings.
Now, a day before that, he signed an anti-human trafficking bill. He's been involved with that social justice because the border has given way to increased human trafficking because of what you said. And you may reject those facts, Nancy Pelosi, but they are facts. Everybody seemed to accept Obama's, you can keep your doctor, keep your plan. But now that Trump's laying out the facts, you don't want to believe him? 30,000 sex crimes, thousands killed at the hands of illegal aliens and illegal immigrants, and you're going to tell me that that's not a crisis? That this crisis is manufactured? Come on now. We're smarter than that here in America, aren't we? We are way smarter than that in America. I have to believe anyway. So you got a banner week for CNN. Then you've got the president in Texas really holding court with the Border Patrol agents, saying they're respected, saying they're liked, pitching his case for the wall. And while someone may have told him a tunnel underneath the border fence, yeah, well, maybe the wall will be different. Just maybe that wall will be different. And yeah, you might be able to saw through the prototype, but that's one thing. The bottom line is, even with the presence of a wall or heavier security, a barrier, whatever you want to call it, with the presence of it there in a more stern way, I think we can get rid of illegal immigration and once again get back to the legalized immigration. I would love that. I would love people to come here legally, not throw rocks at our Border Patrol agents, but come here legally, peacefully, and really come into America and see the beauty for what it is. And many have. And those who are in this country, once again, should not be deported unless they've committed a violent crime and are illegal. But a day after all of this, but then again, they should be empowered to citizenship, not just left hanging, left there to do nothing except maybe take government benefits as an illegal immigrant. No, work hard, pay taxes, become a citizen as well. That's the bottom line. That's the end goal for coming to America, is to be an American citizen. I would hope anyway. That being said, and I feel I'm not trying to politicize this at all, okay? I'm not trying to politicize this at all. But how great of a story was it that Jamie Kloss, a Wisconsin teen who went missing in October, was found alive? Almost 3 months later, after she disappeared from her Wisconsin home, she was located alive Thursday evening, and the suspect is in custody. We know who the suspect is. Now, this made news. I mean, this took up a lot of oxygen on the news channels today, and rightly so. We want to know how the police helped this girl out. We want to know how they got the 21-year-old suspect. But we are caring so much about Jamie Kloss that, as Trump said, there are 30,000 plus more crimes going on that include the border. So yes, we have internal problems for sure. This city has internal problems as well. But this country has external problems that are just adding to the internals. If we can eliminate the externals as much as we can and really focus on bringing our country together without having to worry that people just want to come here illegally or criminals want to cross the border, find a way here illegally again. One guy who shot Katie Steinle here deported 5 times. Okay? Deported 5 times. Still managed to be in here shooting up on a San Francisco pier. You tell me that doesn't boil your blood? You're telling me that Reggie Singh's brother, Ranil Singh, losing his life at the hands of an illegal is not as important as someone losing their life to an American here in America. They're equally important. They are very much so equally important. But it seems like all the time, whenever someone goes missing here in America, at the hands of an American, yes, that is a big deal. Well, what happens if they go missing at the hands of an illegal? What happens if they get killed at the hands of illegal? Why isn't that a big deal as well? Why isn't women, kids being trafficked a big deal to the Democrats? Tell me that right now. Why isn't it a big deal to the Democrats? And the stories just keep getting ridiculous, by the way. I don't even want to talk about it. The stories keep getting ridiculous about Trump and the investigations. Because fact is, the Clintons dealt with Russia more than Trump's dealt with Russia. Can we just establish that fact and not reject that fact? I hope we can. I really hope we can. And I hope that we can care just as much about police officers, about American citizens losing their lives to violent illegals at the border, and closing down the external possibilities of crime happening so that we can focus on the internal possibilities of crime happening. We can handle both, but we have to focus on protecting our border first. Then we can continue to debate and figure out how to help our own hatred for each other that seemingly happens when you see a 13-year-old go missing at the hands of a 21-year-old. Thank God she's found alive after her parents were killed. When you see mass shootings and how we rally around each other as Americans, well, why aren't we rallying around Americans that have been affected by illegals? Tell me that right now. Alex.Garrett21 at yahoo.com. Alex.Garrett21 at yahoo.com. It's all about closing the external possibilities of crime. I don't even know how to put it. The external threats of crime from outside our borders. Then the next step is to focus on the internal threats of crime, like our FBI does do when they're not focused on Trump. But focusing on how we can mend each other as Americans and fix each other as Americans so that kids don't go missing, so that evil can be eliminated within our borders just as much as we're trying to eliminate it outside our borders by strengthening our borders and giving aid to Central America and the Latin countries and Mexico. You might focus on, Trump said this about the wall, and Mexico. Focus on the words that he said, not just little tidbits that the most trusted name in CNN, wants you to hear. Here on Keeping It Real with Alexander Garrett. I've got to take a quick time out because I'm fired up. I'm wired up. I'm also ticked off at the Huffington Post. Okay? And I'm ticked off at Starbucks a little bit, although I love my guys at Starbucks. Love my baristas. It was very funny what happened this week. And you'll hear about it next on Keeping It Real with Alexander Garrett.
Way down among Brazilians, coffee beans grow by the billions, so they've got to find those extra cups to fill. They got an awful lot of coffee in Brazil.
By the way, Brazil also going a little nationalist. They voted a nationalistic president into their presidency, and I'm glad they did, because that parliament, that whole thing's a mess, right? After Rio's big Olympics, big World Cup, they got some fights in Parliament and everything lost control. And finally, there's a little more stability, hopefully, in Brazil, because it's a beautiful country. Rio, I've never been, but I want to be there one day. So this segment's actually going to deal with Fiji Water and the incredible story that happened at the Golden Globes. But why am I playing about coffee? Apparently, to a Starbucks barista, my name is Nick. And I like my iced coffee with 3 pumps of hazelnut. And I also like it with some sugar and milk and sugar. So there you go. That was what was on my cup. And I love the guys. I know it doesn't happen often. So it's just fun to riff off it for a minute. Say I was one of the guys that, one of the people that had their name wrong. Kind of joined that club this week. So there was that. But I do love Starbucks 100%. That being said, from coffee to water, did you hear what happened at the Golden Globes? Did you hear about the red carpet, which actually featured Fiji Water, and how one girl, Kelleth Cuthbert, Kelleth Cuthbert, who, by the way, is an influencer on Instagram, at Kelleth Cuthbert, she had 54,000 followers going into the Golden Globes. And then her life kind of changed around because she started to be noticed on the red carpet behind all these different celebrities with the Fiji behind her. And to make this even more cool, by the way, to make this even cooler, by the way, she actually went to Twitter to tell us who she was.
I don't really know what to say. I was not expecting this at all. Seems like just yesterday I was a normal girl getting ready for the Golden Globes, and it was just an honor to be there. I'd like to thank a few people in particular. To Richard Madden, thank you for giving me my start. Judy Greer, of course, I can't forget about you. Oh, Dakota Fanning and Luke Evans for allowing me the space to have my best angle. Who else? To Lucy Boynton. How could I forget you? You were brilliant. Oh, and Nicole Kidman, I have always wanted to work with you, so thank you. One last thing, please, this is my moment. Okay, and last but not least, I'd like to thank water. If these celebs weren't so thirsty, I wouldn't have been able to serve the way that I did. My performance truly would not have been possible without you. Thank you all.
This was very well done with Kelleth Cuthbert, by the way. She's a Canadian model, and as I mentioned, she jumped from not just 54,000 followers, but then 208,000 followers, and now 227,000 followers, and she's got a Twitter, and I'm going to tag her on Twitter now and see what happens, but she said to the E! Online, Fiji has their own photographer, but, they encourage us just to be ourselves, have fun, hydrate the stars, and keep everybody well hydrated. Well, this hydration ticked off the Huffington Post. Are you kidding me? It ticked off. I have the story in my hand by Kate Braitsker, by the way. Fawning over, FijiWaterGirl ignores the evils of bottled water. Now, I mentioned in the beginning of the show, HuffPosts continue to be a Scrooge. First, we can't even watch Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer without Huffington Post making a big stink about it. Now, we can't admire, we can't enjoy the memes of FijiWaterGirl without hearing the other side of the story. Kind of ruining it, right? We all know bottled water isn't entirely good for the environment. That's true. But can't we let this girl have her moment? Can we let the FijiWaterGirl have her moment? Can we let Rudolph have his moment in the middle of the Christmas season? Can the PC police pipe down for a second? Because no matter what they write, people are not going to stop drinking bottled water. But they will continue to admire this gal because of the impact she had in the pictures behind the stars on the red carpet of the Golden Globes. So why even waste the energy? Why even waste the keyboard strokes? Huffington Post. You know, it's like Huffington Nope. And unfortunately, I think with Ariana out, it's gotten a lot worse. I really do. Because now, with Huffington Post, we have to be careful of how we celebrate certain things, right? Because they're going to come out and write an article about how bad it is. Informative? Sure, this article is informative. But capitalizing on this to promote this agenda that no one will really listen to? I mean, who's going to really get rid of the plastic water bottles because this woman wanted to take the fun from Miss Kelleth away? Not me. Though I do have a couple thermoses, I will totally still continue to drink water. And water bottles if need be. They're recyclable. Recyclable, I guess you'd say. So, Huffington Post. If you just let people enjoy the moment and just stick to reporting news and whatever else opinion you might have, that doesn't spoil the moment. Think Twitter, I think the world would be better off. I think the world would be better off. Because you see a story like that, Huffington Post readers are like, oh, yeah, that's true. Well, it makes them miserable, I would hope, to have to read something so negative about a beautiful, beautiful, fun little opportunity that Kelleth Cuthbert got on Sunday night. So let's stop taking away the fame, the notoriety, and start recognizing it, start having fun with it, and let's lighten up, Huffington Post. Let's lighten up, Kate Bradscare. The, I don't know, information pieces, the educational pieces, I guess, or the opposing viewpoint pieces could wait a couple days. Let this girl have her moment. Or I will really, I've started to really call you this, I will really start calling you Huffington Nope or the Huff Nope. Because nope, I won't be even clicking your links anymore. It's clickbait. They might have real figures in there, but just takes away. And that's not what Huffington Post was made to do. It wasn't made to take away from things. It was made to enhance them. That, I believe, was Ariana's goal. I firmly, firmly believe that. 100%. Now, water, heat, living conditions, that's all important in New York City, right? Just ask Mayor Bill de Blasio.
Everyday New Yorkers who work hard play by the rules. They deserve heat. They deserve hot water. They deserve to be treated decently by their landlords.
Right. So this is the whole big campaign now to seize landlord properties if they're abusive. I'll let you hear the full cut in a second. But you're right. You're right, Mayor Bill. Everyday New Yorkers do deserve to have heat and electricity and water and all living necessities. So then why is NYCHA still being reported in the Daily News as of today, saying angry Brooklyn NYCHA residents shiver with no heat on the coldest day of the year.
Everyday New Yorkers who work hard play by the rules. They deserve heat. They deserve hot water. They deserve to be treated decently by their landlords.
Right. What about you, Mayor Bill? What about you? And I love that Brian Lehrer challenged de Blasio today on this issue.
There's an irony here that NYCHA, which you appoint the leadership of, is such a repeat offender landlord on heat and hot water, etc., that a federal court is on the verge of seizing it away from you and putting it under federal control, and you're resisting it.
Brian, that's not accurate. Come on. These are apples and oranges. I care very, very deeply about the 400,000 New Yorkers who live in NYCHA. The difference is clear as a bell, and respectfully, I think you can see it. Public housing meant to support people. Everyone is only required to provide 30% of their income in rent, regardless of their income. Night and day, what its mission is versus what private landlords who are trying to make a buck do. And the private landlords have the resources to keep their building up. They're choosing not to keep their building up so they can force out, and I'm talking about the bad landlords here, so they can force out tenants and make even more money.
Now, there are parts of this I agree with, okay? I don't think seizing it, but I do think finding awful landlords will make sense. I do think we have to rein them in. Landlord abuse is a big deal in the city. It gets reported by the Patch a lot. But Mayor Bill, instead of trying to make this big stand the whole entire week, by the way, the whole entire week, instead of trying to make this big stand, focus on those New Yorkers you claim to respect. Fining, threatening fines, threatening law enforcement, and I wonder if there are illegal landlords, like illegal undocumented landlords, running these apartments. And will they get law enforcement on them? Or will they be protected? Because according to you, illegal immigrants should be protected. Okay? But here, you're saying this?
Everyday New Yorkers who work hard play by the rules. They deserve heat. They deserve hot water. They deserve to be treated decently by their landlords.
You have to look inside, too, okay? You have to look inside. You have to read the papers and see that NYCHA residents are still struggling, even with the new NYCHA chair, even with the changes going on there. I admire that you want to work with the federal government on this, actually. I really do. But before you go taking other people's property, focus on your own, that we are paying tax-paying dollars for. Mayor Bill de Blasio, I do not want to hear apples and oranges.
Brian, that's not accurate. Come on. These are apples and oranges. I care very, very deeply about the 400,000 New Yorkers who live in NYCHA. The difference...
That's funny. That's funny, because if you did, we wouldn't have an article that says angry Brooklyn NYCHA residents are shivering with no heat on the coldest day of the year. And I feel like we see the story over and over and over and over again. So now, to deflect from that, you're going to say, hey, you landlords that are not doing your job, and I agree, there are bad landlords out there. I totally could see that and read about that happening. And that ticks me off just as much. But Mayor Bill, before you go ahead and start taking property, try to focus on the people who rely on you in the property that the city owns. And don't give me the 30 years of this nonsense, because let's be honest, it's continued under your mayoralty. I don't know what they call it. Under your administration. And then some. And then some. Okay? And then some. So, focus on what you guys can do to better NYCHA that we're paying for, and that everyday New Yorkers are relying on just as much as those who are paying high rent for properties that may not be fully kept up. And those properties should be examined. Yes, they should be inspected. Yes, they should have fines. Yes. But if you're fighting to keep your property, and then you start going into other people's property that's privately owned, that's wrong. That's really wrong. It's aggressive. It's too aggressive, Mayor Bill. The vacant storefronts, that's an aggressive tax. I don't know where you thought that would make sense. Because, people are not buying exactly because of your high taxes. So, can we just stop with the apples and oranges conversation? Can we just stop with this whole every New Yorker deserves heat? Because if you really felt that way, if you really felt that way, Mayor Bill, that you loved New Yorkers?
I care very, very deeply about the 400,000 New Yorkers who live in NYCHA. The difference is clear as a bell, and respectfully, I think you can see it.
But can we see it? Can we see it? I don't know. I don't know, because people are struggling in the houses that we provide for them. Well, I'm sure there are landlords who are trying to target or just trying to get it right. I'm sure there are landlords that are just completely dropping the ball and should be having fines on them, but seizing property? That's too far. You don't want your property to be seized. You don't want our property in the city to be seized. So don't go seizing other people's property. Simple as that, Mayor Bill. Simple as that. It's really a simple case of do unto others as you'd have done for you. You don't want the federal government seizing our houses, which maybe they should because city-run NYCHA has been awful. Then don't go seizing the other people's property. By the way, do you not believe that he actually said this? I will play you right now the full cut of him saying that he will actually go ahead and seize landlord properties.
Everyday New Yorkers who work hard play by the rules. They deserve heat. They deserve hot water. They deserve to be treated decently by their landlords. If the landlord is harassing them, is trying to force them out, is trying to flip the apartment for higher rent, we go in, we issue the violations. Well, right there's a chance for the landlord to fix it. They should just fix it. Let's say they don't fix it in the first instance. We're going to issue significant penalties. That's a chance for them to fix it and pay those penalties and get right. If they continue to ignore that, it means they're bad actors who are trying to hurt working people. That's when we seize the building, give it to a community nonprofit that can run it properly for the tenant. Absolutely respectful of property rights. But how many strikes do these bad landlords get before they're out?
And that's true. I mean, how many strikes can some of these landlords have? How many strikes can NYCHA have before the federal government seizes it, Mayor Bill? I'm a bit wound up tonight, as you could tell. Alex.Garrett21, Yahoo.com. It's NFL weekend. It's another year of NFL divisional playoffs, and I've got a friend of mine just coming up in a matter of moments here, a colleague of mine actually as well, in the radio world, Mike Riker, and we'll get to him in just a minute. But remember this classic theme that you hear it a little bit. It's a little different nowadays, but this one, it's a classic theme. We'll be right back. So he's in his Saints gear, and of course he always wears it to work because he wants to show us how proud of a New Orleans Saints fan he is. Mike Riker, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Alex. How are we doing today?
We're doing good. I'm fired up. I've got rants against de Blasio, wants to seize landlord properties. And it's crazy to me because NYCHA may be seized by the federal government, and I just made the point, if he doesn't want our property as New York City to be seized, don't seize other people's property. That's as simple as that.
You'd be correct on that. I'm just here to talk football. I know nothing else but sports.
All right.
So you're the expert, all that other stuff. I'm just an expert I'm not even an expert. I just know about sports.
Well, so you were like the sports guy at Sirius for a long time.
Correct. Yes.
So tell us about that really quickly and why you think you're qualified to talk about the NFL.
Well, 14 years I worked on all the sports stations. I worked for NFL Radio. I worked for NBA Radio. I was also a host on a pro wrestling show called Busted Open. I dealt with play-by-play for 14 years over there. I've been a Saints fan since I was 5 years old when I lived in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So, yeah, I know a lot about especially Saints football. So, yeah.
Well, and you're also a LSU fan.
Correct.
So really quickly, before we go into that, Les Miles stands with Kansas. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I like Les Miles back in the fold here. It's pretty good. I think it'll be some tough go at first. But I think eventually they'll compete. I'm not sure about competing with the Oklahoma and the Texas of the world, but I think you'll see him in bowl season. I think you'll definitely see that.
Oh, he'll get them there.
Absolutely.
It's been a weird program because they've been good at times, but they've been struggling at other times. So we'll see.
Kansas is more of a basketball school, but hopefully Les Miles change that.
Yeah, and we've seen a few basketball schools become football schools. Duke making a bowl this year as well, so that was interesting.
Absolutely.
But now, I brought you on to talk about the Saints because you are in your Saints gear, and you love Drew Brees. And
yes.
Do you think the Eagles give him a fit?
I don't actually. I think the magic runs out for Nick Foles. Again, this is a Saints fan talking, so I'm kind of a little biased. But I think objectively, the Superdome is a tough place to play. I think it's the best home field advantage in the NFL. The Saints have only lost one game that was early on. I just think this is the year the Saints do make the Super Bowl. I think Philadelphia is not the same team as it was last year when it won. They got very lucky last week against the Bears. The Bears kicked the field goal. It's not the Eagles in that spot. So I think the Saints win. I think they win comfortably. And
look, Foles had a magical run last year, didn't he? And then he somehow beat up Minnesota 38-7, I think it was, in that conference game.
Right.
That was something, and you knew they had something special against the Patriots. But I think the Saints are just an aggressive team, and the Cowboys or the Rams, who do they think they're going to face?
I think it's going to be the Cowboys, actually. As much as I hate to say it, I'm not a Cowboys fan. I think the Cowboys defense, as we saw against the Saints earlier this year, really stuffed them. I think Jared Goff being in that position could be in big trouble. If they stop Gurley, they stop the Rams, in my opinion. Prescott's looked really good. I've not had a lot of confidence in him. But you know what? He looked good against Seattle, and I think Ezekiel Elliott's the guy for the Cowboys. But I think the key is the defense. The Cowboys' defense has been playing lights out since Week 10.
Yeah, and that was really the start with the Cowboys against the Colts, and they just really took off from there, right?
Absolutely.
We'll see. And against the Seahawks last week, I thought the Cowboys had a pretty solid game, and obviously it's a different team. But I don't know. I was saying the other day, I think the Cowboys are a better fit against the Rams than they are the Saints.
I agree. And even though the Cowboys, defeated the Saints, I just think the Cowboys. And listen, the Rams don't have much of a home field advantage. Those LA teams. There's gonna be a lot of blue in that stadium come Saturday. So it's not gonna be a home game per se for the Rams. I think it's gonna be a lot of Cowboys fans, and I think they prevail in a tight one there.
All right, so we got the AFC tomorrow and Sunday, of course. I don't know. I'm going on a limb here and saying the Colts might actually beat the Chiefs.
Ooh, a lot of people are on this bandwagon with the Colts, which I get. But with Kansas City, with all their failures in the playoffs, the one thing they didn't have was a quarterback, and this quarterback's the real deal. I just think too much for Mahomes. I think for the Colts, the Colts have played well. I think it'll be a close game, but I think the Chiefs will prevail in this game.
Does tomorrow indicate where Reed goes, or will he be the Chiefs coach for a while?
Yeah, listen, if he loses, in the divisional after the run he had, there's got to be some questions there. They have not been the same team since Kareem Hunt, got suspended. Right. So that'll be interesting to see. I just take Mahomes as the quarterback. To me, he's the MVP of the season, right? Even more than Breeze. I just think finally that Kansas City has the quarterback. We saw him light up offenses, defenses all over, all over the weeks of the NFL. I just think it's going to be too much for the Colts to really come through here.
And Mahomes is an incredible guy.
He really is.
He's home, so we'll have to see. But I think the Colts have a momentum swing going, and that's not to be forgotten as well. They've just been winning over the last few weeks, not just last week. They've been building this up. So.
Absolutely. Listen, you're not the only one. I've seen a lot of talk on Twitter and even some of the experts predicting the Colts to win this game. Listen, Luck is the comeback player of the year.
Yeah.
He's been tremendous. Their defense is really good. So I think it's going to be a tight one, but I think with Mahomes in the helm, I think they'll win it.
Andrew Luck, to me, is a special guy. I love the way he's recovered from all these injuries. Mm-hmm. And, he's just mowed down a lot of these different defenses like he did last week. That was pretty impressive against a Texan defense that had J.J. Watts. They give up, 21 in the first half?
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, J.J. Watt and Clowney, they really roughed him up in the first half, and their offensive line really protected Luck really well last week. I mean,
absolutely.
that's going to be the key to the game. If they can somehow get some kind of pressure on Luck, I think the Chiefs will hopefully hang on there.
And then the last one of the weekend that we're going to talk about is the Chargers and the Patriots, and that's not a guarantee.
No, I've been going back and forth with this one for some reason. The Chargers have played really well on the road. The Patriots have not looked like the old Patriots. Somehow, though, they're 11-5. They still get the bye. It's tough to pick against the Patriots. I just think somehow the Chargers come out with a win this one.
And it's
they're not the same team.
It's Rivers' time.
It is. I agree. And I also think we're seeing some chinks in the armor with the Patriots. Gronkowski hasn't been the same.
Right.
Brady really hasn't been great. I just think this is the year to pick off the Patriots. I think the Chargers do it.
And they've had some weird losses, So,
yeah, the Dolphins won with at the end
yep.
of that crazy finish.
Losing to Jacksonville.
Yeah, absolutely getting blown out by Houston. It's been a weird year for the Patriots.
And this is following the whole not only losing the Super Bowl, but you wonder if the after effects of that report coming out last year or a couple of years ago with the whole dysfunction in the locker room. I don't know if that all blew into this year, but it might have.
Yeah, it just seems like they, like I said, they're 11-5. It seems like a successful season, but I think they've done it with smoke and mirrors. I mean, I just think they're not the same team they've been the last couple of years.
And then, maybe we'll have you back next week. To talk
about great. I appreciate it, Alex.
But talk about what else is on your sports mind tonight. What else?
Always Yankee hot stove league.
Yeah,
and I think Machado looks like he's going to be out of the mix for the Yankees here. I mean,
LeMahieu's not a bad pickup.
LSU guy, by the way. So I'm very happy there. Yeah, it's interesting with LeMahieu and Tulowitzki.
Yep.
I mean, if they do sign Machado, it's going to be a really crowded infield there. So I don't see that happening. So, which I'm actually happy about. We saw the comments about Machado, during the World Series about how he did.
And he's tried to clean that up a bit. It's not worked.
Yeah, as a Yankee fan, I don't want to see that. That's not what the Yankees are all about. Right. So supposedly the White Sox and the Phillies are the two teams interested, and supposedly there's a surprise third team. Not sure who that is, but I probably see him in Philly.
Yeah, well, I was thinking Chicago for a little bit, but it might be the Phillies, and that'll be a headache. But no matter what, the fact that it looks like the Dodgers have just lost Puig and Machado's not to be forgotten.
Good point.
In the NL West. I mean, that or the NL period.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Especially with the Cubs out there, they're trying to make moves, and the Mets have made a lot of moves this year. I'm not saying they're going to be a contender, but those are pretty solid acquisitions in Cano and Lowry. Absolutely. Yeah. So they could be a factor in the National League East.
And hopefully, because this town needs them to be good again.
Yeah, but they need both teams to do well.
Yeah,
it's not the same when it's just one team when the Yankees are dominating, or it's
and it was
nice.
a weird 100-win season last year.
It was.
It wasn't like the typical Yankee 100-win season. Let's be honest.
I know. There was a lot of criticism because while the Red Sox were playing, they were still 8 games out of first place. So it was it was a lot of criticism. But you got to realize Judge was out a lot of the year. Gregorius was out. He's going to be out again.
Stanton was trying to find his feet here. In New York,
yeah. So
sure.
I think the pitching staff will be better this year. Not sure about the bullpen yet. The Britton signing was key. Losing Robertson could hurt. But I think the Yankees will still win 100 games this year.
Yeah, I mean, David Robertson goes on. I forget where he actually went.
I think he's going to the Phillies, actually.
Yeah, that's right. He got signed by the Phillies, so he's going to be a pain in the Mets' neck. But no, and this has been a weird offseason because obviously we were wondering if they get Machado. They don't. They're sort of getting these not well-known infielders, inside, except for Tulo.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. If it seems like Machado's out, does that bring Harper back in the mix for the Yankees? I mean, they need some left-handed bats.
They do. As my friend said, it'll be an all right-handed team, and we don't want that, especially because Didi might be out now, I think, for a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic, but we'll see what happens. And then pitching-wise, they get Paxton, but that was about it.
Well, re-signing Happ, I thought was a key one. I think that's a key one. They only had him for half the year. He was excellent. Unfortunately, he was not good in the division game.
Oh, and Hicks comes back today as well.
Yeah. So I think having those two lefties along with Sabathia and Severino Tanaka, I think it's a solid starting staff.
And then as I'm thinking about this, on the other side of the river, you have the Mets signing DeGrom, I think they said, for the highest arbitration.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he deserves it. I mean, the guy was weird record 8-8, obviously, but his average was just so unbelievable.
Yeah, and all the talk during the season about him getting traded to the Yankees, the Mets would be so foolish to do that. I mean, he's the number one guy. You don't get pitchers like that, every so often. You need a guy like that to anchor the rotation. And I said they made some decent moves here. I'm not a Mets fan, but they made some decent moves. They could challenge that National League East. It depends what the Phillies do. If they lose out on Machado, they're not a great team. The National League East can be there for the taking if things go well for the Mets.
Now, you've worked with Chris Russo. He's on High Heat all the time. What a great show that is.
Oh, it's tremendous. It's tremendous. He brings so much passion. He's an old school guy. He reads newspapers.
Still a Giant fan, I'm guessing? Or?
He's still a Giants fan, yeah, but he reads newspapers. He doesn't check the internet. He reads the USA Today and the New York Times, so he gets all his information from there. If you don't know anything about the 1940, Brooklyn Dodgers, you're not a real baseball fan according to his eyes, but he's tremendous on that show. He brings so much passion to the sport of baseball.
Yeah, and you mentioned newspaper publications. It's going to be another sports year without the Daily News, basically. The Daily News folding.
Yeah,
and it's
crazy.
like, what you see all these guys on Twitter lamenting that they don't have a job, and it's really sad to see, actually.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's the reason why I got in this business. I love reading a newspaper, whether it be, like I said, the Daily News, the New York Post. Unfortunately, it's a dying breed right now, and it's unfortunate because some of the best baseball, Michael Kay came from there, and some of the baseball writers came from those publications.
All right, we talk about this actually off air, but BBWA, do they revoke that guy from Boston who doesn't want money?
Oh, God, I wish they would. I mean, how can you not revoke Mariano Rivera? Listen, I get it. No one has ever been 100% in the Hall of Fame, which I think is ridiculous. How do you not have Babe Ruth as a 100% Hall of Famer? So, I mean, Mariano Rivera is a Hall of Famer. It's either yes or no. So whether they revoke him or not, I don't see that. But, I mean, listen, he's going to get in, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah, but
way,
does. I don't agree with taking away someone's vote just because of that. That's their opinion, but what an idiotic thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, it just sets fuel to the fire for more Red Sox versus Yankees.
Absolutely, and I think this rivalry is back. We saw it last year
yes.
with Tyler Austin, who's no longer on the Yankees.
No, he's not, yeah.
So, I mean, he was a spark plug because up until that point with the brawl with, John Kelly, who looks like a complete tool, by the way. Anyway, that fight reinvigorated the Yankees. That gave them the passion back. Because before that, they were kind of dead in April, and it was just like slogging on, and Stanton wasn't producing.
Right.
And, of course, the media says, why aren't you producing already? And it's only April, but still, that brawl set the tone for the season, I think.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it is back, but unfortunately, the Red Sox have dominated this since 2004, let's be honest.
Yep.
So, it's time for the Yankees to kind of take control over here. It's, the division series was not... it was tied at 1-1. We got spanked in the Bronx. It was not a competitive series, especially at Yankee Stadium. So, the Red Sox are the champions, let's be honest. So the Yankees had to do some twinking this year, and hopefully this leads to a championship.
Benintendi is the guy to look out for. I know there's bets, but I've always looked at Benintendi as the secret weapon to them. You know?
The one sign that hurt me was JD Martinez. I knew when the Red Sox signed him, I was like, that guy's going to be a monster. He was. That guy is just a great professional hitter.
It's so weird because Houston sort of just folded in the playoffs.
Yeah,
it's very strange.
Yeah, I mean,
you have Bregman, you have the little guy. What's his name again?
Yeah, you got Bregman, you got Correa, you got so many other guys on there. Altuve,
Altuve,
I mean, Altuve was hurt during most of that series. But listen, it was the Red Sox time. It was the Red Sox year. It's nothing to do about it.
It's just fascinating because Cora just had that control of the clubhouse from the get-go.
He did. He's a very good manager, and they have a very good team. The Yankees never have to work for it this year. There's no doubt about it. I mean, it's them and the Red Sox. It's everybody else, especially in the American League East.
Yep.
Tampa's decent. Toronto and Baltimore are going to be bad again. So it's going to be between those two teams.
Buck Showalter, of course, being let go by the O's. We saw that coming.
Yeah.
Just kind of sad because he built up a team there for a little bit with Davis when he was healthy and good, and the pitching as well. Now, by the way, Yankees got Zach Britton back, which is actually ending up being a pretty good signing for the Yankees.
Yeah, I love that signing. I mean, to me, it's all about the bullpen. You have Chapman, you got Betances, now you got Britton. Like I said, the loss of Robertson I thought hurt a little bit. But you also got Chad Green, so I think that bullpen still is.
Chad Green is incredible.
He is. I mean, he throws 99 coming out of the bullpen, so that bullpen's still strong. So that's
just gotta get Dellen's head on straight. I think.
Yeah, he was great last year. So after that debacle 2 years ago. I just worry sometimes about Chapman, in certain situations. But listen, I don't think anybody could beat our bullpen. It's going to be hard.
Yeah, that will be tough, but obviously it's in the middle. We're nearing spring training, so it's always going to be. That's always a fun time of year, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, baseball season seems like it's now 12 months out of the year with all this.
I know this has been the hottest hot stove.
Yeah. So and then spring training is here before you know it's going to be next month. It's crazy.
And I know that A-Rod was a hot stove 14 years ago, but I don't know. This year had a buzz to it that I haven't seen in a while. I don't know. Yeah.
And it's crazy that Machado and Harper haven't signed yet. I mean, here we are in January. Like I said, we're a month out from spring training almost, and then those two big free agents haven't signed yet.
And either Manny's hustling or he's not hustling in January. I don't know. He's got to get ready somehow.
Yeah,
though,
let Philly have that problem.
All right, so one more thing. The Jets getting roundly criticized for hiring Adam Gase. Now, one thought about it is, yes, he was the offensive coordinator for Peyton Manning. Yes, he did help them get to 50-8 win against the Seahawks defense. And it's just ridiculous at that point because I think Sherman was on the team back then.
Right.
But just the head coaching experience didn't seem to fit him very well.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Tannehill really never developed into anything. Maybe he's just not a good quarterback. Maybe that wasn't Gase's fault. But even his, we saw his actions towards the media over there, where Tannehill was injured and he got annoyed by some of the questioning. What's going to happen here in New York? Because, I mean, even worse.
And people were questioning that on Twitter, actually.
Yeah.
So.
And then supposedly, before he got fired, there was the players that wanted to get traded because of him. I mean, supposedly what I heard is that the reason they hired Gase is because he was willing to let them pick his own staff. Now, as a coach, why wouldn't you want to pick your own staff? So
he was not willing. You mean?
No, he's willing to have the Johnson family.
He doesn't want to. He doesn't.
Yeah, he said, pick the staff for me, which to me is a little strange. I don't know why we want his own guys in there.
Yeah, that was.
So Mike McCarthy's still out there, and how he's not the Jets coach is just crazy to me. This is typical Jet stuff.
Yep.
The only saving grace is that they do have a good quarterback. I think Darnold's going to be the guy.
Darnold's the future.
Yeah, absolutely. But will he flourish under Gase? We're going to see. I mean, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. But I know there was another guy who actually turned down the Jets offer, not just McCarthy, but another guy because he was like, "What you want? You want to control everything, not me." Like it just was.
Yeah, I think that was the Baylor head coach.
Yeah, the Baylor head coach.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, here's a guy who wants to, from college to the pros. That's probably his dream. Why wouldn't you want the coach to have his own staff? Why are you having a staff that maybe Gase won't get along with offensive coordinator?
And the general justification I saw most of that night was that, he's the first NFL head coach since Parcells, and I'm like, that's how we're justifying this right now? Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think they're trying to do like a Sean McVay, lightning in a bottle here, where he's had success with
Sean
quarterbacks.
Had a very special inheritance with Goff, and we didn't know it at the time.
And maybe he's got one with Darnold, and maybe he does. And maybe we'll all be eating crow like we did with Joe Torre when they all called him Clueless Joe. But I personally, I don't see that happening.
By the way, that was 23 years ago.
Yeah, imagine that.
And then 20 years ago, they won again against the Braves.
Yeah.
And they come back every year, which is kind of fun to see the 20th anniversary. And there's been a string of them now: 98, now 99, and the next year 2000.
Yeah, and now it stops after that.
Well, yeah, and that was a tough.
Until 2009.
That was a tough World Series in 01. I mean, that was gritty. Obviously, with the circumstances around that as well.
Of course.
But I thought the Yanks had it, and it just slipped away from them.
Yeah, that's one of the toughest ones. I think that one and the 04 Red Sox comeback was the two
in our
most
lifetimes,
devastating
absolutely.
losses. Yeah.
So we'll see where the whole sports scene goes. But my picks for the weekend, I'm going Colts. I'm actually going to go Cowboys. I think it's a better matchup for them against the Rams.
Agreed.
I'm going to go with the Saints because the Saints are the Saints. And I'm going to go with the Chargers. I just feel it. I feel it because Rivers' time is due. It's 15 years overdue now. I mean, not that Manning didn't deserve to win, but what a trade that ended up being.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? I mean, Manning and Roethlisberger have their championships run for that draft, and he's the last one left. So maybe this is the year for him.
This has to be, and I think because he's getting older,
Yeah.
So.
And he's got the defense. I mean, he's got all the places in there. If it wasn't for the Chiefs, they'd be have a bye and be the number one seed. But unfortunately, Kansas City had a much better season than they did.
That was a fun race, and we haven't seen an exciting AFC West like that in a long time.
Yeah, that game was tremendous that they had on that Thursday night where San Diego went for 2 and won that game.
And most of these Thursday nights have been garbage games.
Yeah, but that game was a special. That was a special one. That was a special one.
And actually, so was the Monday night game, Raiders, because it was possibly their last game.
Right.
Again, another one where they had some brutal Monday night games, but this one seemed to really hit the core of a lot of fans.
No, the NFL has had a good year this year. You know, they've had some down years, obviously, with the whole controversy last year of the
whole year for the NFL was great.
But this year with the games the way it's been with Mahomes and with
Luck coming back,
with all the great quarterbacks really playing well.
Breeze breaking records right.
Absolutely.
Saquon. I mean, how can we forget Saquon Barkley in that conversation?
And we've had some great games, and hopefully we have a great weekend this weekend.
I think we will. These first 2 weekends are always fun because you got back-to-back games, multiple days,
definitely.
And then it's like, okay, well, it's winding down now, but these 2 weekends are fun, and it's cold, as it should be,
right,
to enjoy it. So we'll see. And then, of course, Nets are something to keep an eye on in basketball for once.
Yeah, maybe they'll make the playoffs. At least one team will make it in the playoffs, hopefully in one of these sports here, because it won't be the Knicks.
No, but it could be the Islanders and Nets, which is very interesting because that Brooklyn contingent there hasn't fared as well over the years, but now the Islanders are Tavares-less, and they're possibly making the playoffs.
What's crazy about the Nets is, and I'm a basketball fan, it's hard to name their lineup. I mean, it really is, but somehow they're doing it.
Well, what'd they do? 15-16, I think, or something like that along those lines.
Right.
So we'll see. Anyway, Mike, I know I got to get back into the world of radio, so I'll let you do that.
Thank you, Alex.
I will see you guys on Keeping It Real with Alexander Garrett next time. But again, enjoy this weekend because it is playoff football, and you know you'll be blasting this all weekend long.